Megalodon may have been the most extreme predator the ocean ever produced. Picture a shark, 24 meters long, nearly the length of a blue whale, 94 tons. Its babies were born the size of adult great whites after eating their siblings in the womb. And for 19 million years, almost nothing in the ocean could seriously challenge it. But for nearly 200 years, we pictured that animal in the wrong way. Every major reconstruction gave Megalodon the body of a giant great white, thick, stocky, built like a battering ram. Museums displayed it, documentaries repeated it, Hollywood turned it into an icon. But that shark may never have existed. In 2025, a team of 29 scientists rebuilt Megalodon from scratch, comparing it against 165 shark species. What they found was a very different animal, not a scaled-up great white, but something longer, leaner, and built to cross oceans efficiently. And that changes everything, because the real Megalodon was not just bigger than the legend. It was designed better, more efficient, more formidable. And in the end, that same design may explain both how it ruled the seas for millions of years and why it disappeared. This is World Untangled. And today, we're pulling apart the ocean's most misunderstood monster. So how do you get the biggest shark in history wrong for nearly 200 years? It starts with a basic, frustrating fact. Sharks don't leave good fossils. A great white's skeleton is made almost entirely of cartilage, the same flexible tissue in your nose and ears. When a shark dies, that cartilage dissolves. The muscles rot. Within weeks, the ocean reclaims almost everything. Almost. The teeth survive. Made of enamel and dentine, they are extraordinarily durable, raining down onto the seabed over millions of years where they fossilize. Megalodon had 276 teeth in its jaws at any one time, some 18 centimeters long. Because it replaced them constantly, a single individual could shed over 40,000 across its life. So when scientists tried to reconstruct the largest shark in history, they weren't working from a skeleton or a skull. They were working from teeth and almost nothing else. That's like trying to reconstruct a wolf from its canines alone. You could guess its diet, you could estimate the size of its bite, but you wouldn't know whether it was lean or stocky, built for endurance or ambush. The teeth give you the weapon. They don't give you the animal. And once teeth become your main evidence, one comparison can shape everything. That's where the story turns. In 1666, the anatomist Nicholas Steno examined a large shark caught off Livorno, Italy, and noticed that its teeth matched the strange triangular tongue stones found on European shores for centuries. Objects many believed were the petrified tongues of snakes or dragons. Steno argued that they were not mythical objects at all, but fossils, the preserved remains of ancient animals. That idea helped define what a fossil actually was. But it also did something else. It made teeth incredibly important. So when Louis Agassiz described Megalodon in 1835, he followed the same logic. The teeth looked enough like a great white's that he placed it in the same genus. And once that comparison took hold, it spread everywhere. Scientists, artists, museums, documentaries, all of them rebuilt Megalodon around the same assumption: giant teeth, giant great white. A 1996 skeletal reconstruction helped cement the image. Thick body, broad head, a massive, stocky great white. Case closed. Hollywood loved it. Except the teeth had never actually proved that body plan in the first place. The first real cracks in the old Megalodon story did not come from some spectacular new fossil. They came from people looking more carefully at the teeth. In the mid-2000s, researchers led by Kevin Nyberg compared Megalodon teeth to great white teeth in much more detail. Not just the overall shape, but the roots, the serrations, the proportions. And the result was clear. They were structurally different, not just bigger versions of the same tooth. The match that had shaped Megalodon for nearly 2 centuries was much weaker than people thought. And once that idea started to break, everything built on top of it started breaking too. By 2019, the reclassification was official. Megalodon was removed from the great whites family entirely and placed in the Ottodontidae, an extinct lineage of megatoothed sharks stretching back over 60 million years. A dynasty with no living descendants. If Megalodon was not closely related to the great white, there was no reason to expect it to look like one. The entire body plan, the stocky frame, the broad head, the barrel chest, had been borrowed from the wrong animal. The monster in the museum was a fiction, and without its template, the most famous predator in Earth's history became a stranger. In March 2025, a team of 29 researchers, led by paleobiologist Kenshu Shimada of DePaul University, set out to answer the question that the broken template left behind. This time, instead of starting with the great white, they built a comparative database of 165 shark species, living and extinct, and used it to estimate Megalodon's real body proportions. Then they turned to one of the rarest pieces of evidence in all of Megalodon research, a fossilized vertebral column discovered in Belgium, now housed in the Royal Belgian Institute of Natural Sciences in Brussels. It measures 11.1 meters, but that's just the trunk. No head, no tail. Using their broader data set, the team estimated the missing sections and arrived at a total body length of about 16.4 meters. But that was only the start. Another set of fossilized vertebrae from Denmark includes bones measuring 23 centimeters in diameter, significantly larger than the Belgian specimen. Same proportional analysis. The result? Approximately 24.3 meters, 80 feet, nearly the length of a blue whale, an estimated weight of 94 tons, and the shape was nothing like a great white. Megalodon's proportions most closely resembled those of the modern lemon shark. Sleek, relatively slender, with a flatter snout and extra-long pectoral fins. Not the barrel-chested battering ram of Hollywood. Something leaner, more streamlined, built for efficiency rather than brute confrontation. Not a monster of force, a monster of design. That sleeker body was not just a new look for Megalodon. It was the only version that really made sense. Because moving through water is brutally expensive. It is about 800 times denser than air. A stocky body creates drag. Drag demands energy. Energy demands food. Food means hunting, which demands more energy. This vicious circle imposes hard limits on how large an animal can grow. It's why the biggest creatures in the ocean, blue whales, whale sharks, basking sharks, all converge on the same solution: long, slender, hydrodynamic bodies. Not because they're related, but because the physics of water forces the same answer. At a massive scale, you either streamline or you fail. The old Megalodon ran straight into this wall. Scale a great white up to 24 meters, and you get an animal that would have to spend enormous amounts of energy just moving its own body. The biological equivalent of building a cargo plane with the aerodynamics of a bus. It's why modern great whites cap out at around 7 meters. Beyond that, The drag penalty becomes prohibitive. The revised Megalodon makes the numbers work. A sleeker body reduces drag, lowers energy costs, and allows an animal that size to cover enormous distances without burning through impossible amounts of food. Its teeth have been found on every continent except Antarctica. That kind of global range doesn't come from raw power, it comes from efficiency. The Hollywood version was scary because it was huge. The real version is scarier because it was engineered. And that design did not begin in adulthood. It began before birth. Growth patterns in the Belgian vertebrae revealed that newborn megalodon pups measured between 3.6 and 3.9 meters long, roughly the size of a fully grown adult great white. And they may have reached that size before they ever entered the open ocean. Like some modern lamniform sharks, megalodons' embryos likely practiced oophagy, feeding on unfertilized eggs inside the mother. The strongest consumed the most, growing into formidable hunters before they were even born. As one researcher on the 2025 team put it, megalodon pups may already have been capable of taking down marine mammals shortly after birth. This is how evolution builds an apex predator. Not by producing a helpless infant that slowly grows dangerous, but by front-loading survival into the design. By the time a young megalodon entered the open ocean, it had already won a biological arms race inside its mother's body, an animal born the size of the ocean's most feared living predator. For 15 to 20 million years, that design worked almost perfectly. Megalodon dominated a world rich in whales, seals, and large marine mammals, a world generous enough to sustain one of the most expensive predators Earth has ever produced. It survived shifting continents, changing currents, the rise and fall of countless other species. For a span of deep time, almost impossible to comprehend, it seemed invincible, until the math changed. When people imagine extinction, they tend to imagine violence, an asteroid, a supervolcano, a climactic final battle, something worthy of the animal. Megalodon didn't get that. Its end was gradual, systemic, and, in a way, mundane. We know when Megalodon vanished. The youngest teeth date to approximately 3.6 million years ago. After 19 million years, the fossil record goes silent. For years, the leading theory was temperature. But research by Catalina Pimiento showed that Megalodon inhabited a wide range of latitudes, including colder waters. Its distribution didn't track warming or cooling trends, and the animal was likely capable of regulating its own body temperature above the surrounding water. Cold alone didn't kill it. What did was the collapse of its food supply. Pimiento's research showed that Megalodon's abundance peaked in the Middle Miocene, roughly 11 to 16 million years ago. Then began a slow, irreversible decline that tracked a mass extinction of marine megafauna. Around 2 to 3 million years ago, the oceans lost over half their large marine mammal species and more than a third of all large marine life. Sea levels fluctuated. Productive coastal habitats were altered or destroyed. Ocean currents reorganized. The rich, whale-filled world that had sustained Megalodon for millions of years was quietly dismantled. And into that shrinking world stepped a competitor that didn't need to be bigger, it just needed to be cheaper. The great white shark didn't outfight Megalodon, it didn't outswim it, it outlasted it by being smaller. A great white maxes out at 6 or 7 meters and needs far less food than a 24-meter apex predator. In a world of abundance, that's irrelevant. But in a world where prey populations are collapsing, the equation flips. Smaller bodies need less fuel. Flexible predators adapt. Giants do not get that luxury. Research into zinc isotope ratios in fossil teeth confirmed that during the Pliocene, great whites hunted the same high-energy prey as Megalodon, seals, marine mammals, the same shrinking menu. They weren't bystanders. They were direct competitors eating from the same table. Megalodon's range contracted. Its fossil record narrowed, and around 3.6 million years ago, the teeth stopped. No last stand, no apocalypse, just an energy budget that no longer closed. One of nature's coldest rules is that in an unstable world, efficiency beats dominance. The largest predator in the history of the ocean was not defeated in combat. It was outlived. And there is one final consequence that still echoes today. After Megalodon disappeared, baleen whales exploded in size. Pleistocene species were, on average, far larger than their Pliocene ancestors. The blue whale, the largest animal that has ever lived, only became possible in an ocean where Megalodon no longer hunted. Its disappearance did not just end a predator, it changed what the ocean could become. And yet, knowing all of that, the question still won't die. Could Megalodon still be out there? And over the years, that hope has been fed by some spectacularly irresponsible media. In 2013, a widely watched documentary presented what looked like evidence of Megalodon's survival: a mauled blue whale, giant fins cutting the surface, experts explaining that only something Megalodon-sized could be responsible. Millions believed it. It was fake. The images were fabricated. The footage was staged. The scientists were actors. Most later sightings follow the same pattern. A huge shark glimpsed at a distance, a dramatic headline, an animal that turns out to be something far less exotic. In 1918, a fisherman off eastern Australia reported a shark somewhere between 30 and 95 meters long, a range so wide it tells you more about the fisherman than the shark. In 2022, a news outlet ran the headline, "2 Megalodon sightings off New England." It was a basking shark. Then there's the Mariana Trench theory. In 1873, the HMS Challenger dredged up Megalodon teeth from the deep sea floor. They looked unusually white, almost fresh, and some were later dated to between 11,000 and 24,000 years old. To a lot of people, that sounded like proof Megalodon had survived far longer than we thought. It was not. Megalodon teeth are extremely dense, and on the deep sea floor, they can be coated in manganese dioxide, a mineral that builds up very slowly and helps preserve them. That means a tooth can look shockingly fresh, even when it is ancient. What looked recent was really just well preserved. The deep ocean is not a hidden pantry. It is one of the most energy-starved environments on Earth. Almost everything down there survives on scraps drifting from above: dead organic matter, bits of waste, fragments of life from the sunlit surface. More than 95% of that material is gone before it ever reaches the bottom. That is why the deepest fish we know, the Mariana snailfish, is a soft-bodied animal only about 20 centimeters long. Now compare that to Megalodon, a 24-meter predator, around 94 tons, an animal built to hunt whales. Putting something like that in the deep ocean is like trying to hide a jet engine in a room with no fuel. And there is an even cleaner reason the idea fails. A predator that large would not just be visible as an animal, it would be visible as an ecosystem. It would reshape prey behavior, competitor ranges, and the entire food web around it. If Megalodon were still hunting, Orcas and great whites would not dominate the top of the ocean the way they do. The post-Megalodon rise of giant baleen whales would make far less sense. You do not just have to hide the animal, you have to hide its effects on an entire ocean. Megalodon is extinct, but the persistence of the myth tells you something important. We still want the ocean to contain one last impossible thing. And maybe that is why the Ghost of Megalodon refuses to sink. So, what was Megalodon? A sleek, hydrodynamically optimized predator, possibly the length of a blue whale, built to cruise ocean basins with ruthless efficiency. An animal with babies, born the size of great whites, sustained by a world rich enough to feed a 94-ton carnivore, until that world began to disappear. But the real lesson is not just about the animal, it is about us. For 200 years, scientists had thousands of teeth and a handful of vertebrae. From those fragments, they built the wrong monster. They borrowed the body of the great white because the teeth looked similar, and that one assumption shaped everything that followed. The size estimates, the museum displays, the movies, the nightmares. It lasted not because the evidence was overwhelming, but because the image was. It was dramatic, familiar, cinematic. It felt right, and that is often enough to let a mistake survive for generations. We fill gaps with familiar shapes. We build the unknown in the image of the known. And sometimes the familiar version becomes so persuasive that it outlives the evidence itself. No complete megalodon skeleton has ever been found. We are still reconstructing the largest shark in history from fragments. And every new discovery does not just add detail, it changes the picture. The ocean once built a predator so extreme, so expensive, and so effective that millions of years later, we still struggle to picture it clearly. And every time we try, the real animal turns out to be more powerful than the legend. What do you think the next discovery will reveal? Tell us below. For more deep dives that untangle our world, subscribe to World Untangled.